If you've ever had your heart set on something like a job, a relationship, a big opportunity you're stoked about, and at the last minute it fell apart, this video is for you. Because disappointment isn't just about losing an opportunity. It's about what it means to us, what that loss means. It shakes our self-confidence, our feeling of control, and sometimes even the idea that life is working in our favor. So, hello. I am Hannah Kirkpatrick. Welcome. Today we're diving into how to maturely handle disappointment, not by pretending it doesn't hurt, not by spiritual bypassing your feelings, but by understanding what's actually happening in our brains, our bodies, and our soul when things don't go as planned. And then we'll talk about how to transform that moment into personal evolution. How do I know this? Because I just went through it. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to regulate your nervous system when your plans fall apart, how to use disappointment as a mirror for growth instead of proof that you failed, because that is an old pattern that really sucks. You're gonna learn how to reframe your story using neuroscience, psychology, and spirituality so that you win from your losses instead of getting stuck in them. So if you stay to the end, I promise I'm gonna share how I personally use the teachings of Joe Dispenza, Byron Katie, Mel Robbins, and our OG Wayne Dyer to move from crushed to clear and from rejected to redirected. You ready? Let's get it. So a few weeks ago, no, actually it was sooner than that. What happened is that I was booked over a year ago to speak as the keynote for a recovery gala fundraiser event. So this wasn't just any event. This was something that, like I said, I committed to over a year ago. And if you know me, you know I don't commit that far in advance. But this one felt aligned with my purpose. It was about sharing my story of destruction and redemption. It was about speaking to those who are still in pain and helping their families and raising money to support people in recovery. That's like my jam, y'all. It also included judging a Miss America state pageant the same weekend. So in one weekend, I was to be combining two of my favorite things, recovery advocacy and pageantry. Y'all, purpose and sparkle, service and beauty, I was all in, right? Totally me. So what happened is that they agreed to cover my flight, to cover my hotel, and to lend me a gown, and they would even give me hair and makeup for the event, which obviously I need since I'm showing up without either for you today. So I wasn't getting paid for this one, and that was fine. I totally was excited to give back, but I also wasn't about to go into debt, to do it. So then, here we are, 2 weeks before the event. I get a message from the organizer that ticket sales are down about 30%. After talking with their financial director, they can no longer afford to cover my expenses. I would need to pay almost $2,000 out of my own pocket for 3 days away from my business and my family. I hated it, but I had to gracefully back out. So I wrote a kind, understanding note, and I meant every word. But the truth is that I was heartbroken. And y'all, I still kind of am, if I'm being really honest with myself. This is a pretty recent thing. And one way that I get to process the work that I'm doing is by sharing what I've gone through and sharing what I have learned and how I, in real time, managed it either well or not well so that you can learn from it, right? So in that moment, I felt sadness, I felt disappointment, even anger. I felt let down. Like I had kept my end of the deal for over a year. I rearranged my life for it. I checked in multiple times over the year to confirm. And then, just like that, it was gone with no real accountability on the other side. And I mean, I understand that events happen, and things happen, but the ego part of me said, this isn't fair. The spiritual part of me whispered, something better must be coming, because that's what I always say, right? Is this or something better? And then there was a part of me that just wanted to cry and eat anything chocolate. Which for me is still progress, because in the past, disappointment might have sent me into a bottle or into a complete cake or into, destruction in lots of different ways. So that's when I realized that the best way is to teach, that disappointment is the test, that it's the place where theory hits practice. And okay, this was actually just a few days ago. So instead of trying to escape the feeling, I decided to stay. I let myself feel the sting. I've been sitting in it. I acknowledged it. I called and talked it out with my sister friend. I promised myself and claimed out loud to not numb it with food, sex, or distraction. I prayed, I meditated. I sat with Rapé and the question, what is this here to teach me? And I encourage you, if you're facing disappointment, to start there as well. Let's dig a little bit into the psychology of disappointment, like what's actually happening inside of us when we experience disappointment. Psychologically, disappointment is what happens when we have expectations and outcomes that don't align. It's a collapse of an internal model that our brain has already built. Neuroscience calls this a prediction error. It's like your brain predicted a reward, and when that doesn't materialize, your dopamine levels crash, yours and mine. I say this interchangeably because you guys know me as a teacher. I'm experiencing it, I'm learning through it, and I'm sharing it with you. So we literally experience a chemical withdrawal from the high of anticipation. Does that make sense? That's why it hurts. It's not just emotional, y'all, it's biological. Your body is wired to seek consistency and reward. And when reality doesn't match the movie that we've been playing in our heads, the brain interprets it as a form of threat. So that helps me to understand that there's actually physiological happenings going down. Dopamine crashes, expectations crashed, all the things. But every disappointment is actually an opportunity. It gives us data about where our attachments are, where our self-worth lives, and what expectations we might need to evolve. So this is the pause practice. Here's our tool. Here's how we're going to combat this. Tool number 1, before reacting, stop. Don't text, don't vent, don't spiral, just breathe. When we pause, we engage the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part of the brain. That's how we shift from emotional reaction to conscious response. Tool number 2 is then we're gonna label the feeling. We're gonna pause for a minute. We're gonna sit in the feels and fucking feel them, okay? Then we're gonna label them. So neuroscientist Dan Siegel says this, name it to tame it. And when you say, I'm feeling disappointed, I'm feeling rejected, or whatever the actual feeling that's coming up for you is, the amygdala calms down. The feeling loses its grip. The amygdala is what's responsible for the fight or flight or fawn. Okay, so we're gonna calm it just by naming it. Then tool 3, we're gonna rename the story. So we ask ourselves, what else could this mean? Maybe it's not a rejection. Maybe it's a redirection. What if it's not failure and it's feedback? So this is what Mel Robbins calls the power of reinterpretation. When you assign a new meaning to a painful event, your brain's chemistry literally changes. You turn an emotional wound into a neural win. It's all about how we sit with it and the questions that we ask ourselves. So here's the spiritual view. Let's raise it up a layer, okay? Disappointment is often the soul's way of pruning what's not aligned with our next level. When we're being upgraded, the old plans often dissolve first. Have you experienced this in your life? If you have, drop in the comments, please, what you felt dissolve that was preparing you for your next upgrade. So Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Old school advice from the OG. He was like my first spiritual mentor. So In this moment, when this happened, I started asking, what if this is happening for me, not to me? This allowed my brain to start looking for constructive answers that would lead me to growing through it, not just going through it, right? Maybe I was being protected from burnout. Maybe the universe wanted me home that weekend for something that I can't see yet. Actually, I won't be home at all. I'll be between Istanbul and Utah, and Ohio was supposed to be in the middle. But either way, this was a lesson in boundaries, or detachment, or humility. When we're in ego, we see loss. And when we're in alignment, we see redirection. And y'all, it just feels better, right? Like, that's where I want to play. I want to be in a space of redirection and learning about everything that happens. So Joe Dispenza teaches that the quantum field mirrors our emotional state. If we stay in resentment or self-pity, we attract more chaos, right? But if we shift into gratitude and curiosity, we magnetize new opportunities. I know this, and you probably do too. This is a realignment to get back to what you know and put it into practice. So I sat in meditation. I visualized myself still speaking on that stage, but in a higher timeline at an event that's fully aligned, fully funded, fully received. I let my body feel the energy of it without the attachment to how and when it shows up. Because, y'all, maturity is not pretending not to care. We were taught a lie about that. It's being able to care deeply and still let go gracefully. What a great opportunity for me to practice this in my life this week. So let's talk a little bit about the work of our beloved friend, Byron Katie. When disappointment hits, our mind creates stories like, they disrespected me, I wasn't valued, it's not fair. So easy to fall into those painful traps. So Byron Katie's framework, called The Work, if you're new to it, is designed to bring those stories into the light, to really be in what we call self-inquiry. And when we do, often the pain will disappear. So let's do one together. You wanna? The first question we ask is it true? The statement might be, they shouldn't have canceled. Okay, well, maybe that's true, but how can we be sure? Question number 2 is, can you absolutely know it's true? And when I sit with that, I really get to the answer is no. Maybe their budget truly collapsed, which I trust. I trust the organizer. She wouldn't have lied to me. Here's what I also know is maybe something greater is unfolding. Question 3, how do you react when you believe that thought? What it felt like to me was a tight chest, a sad heart. I felt small and powerless, and it was really easy to slip into worthlessness and self-pity. It felt like crap. Question 4 is, who would you be without that thought? And really sit in this and meditate into it, feel it. Who would I be without the thought that they shouldn't have canceled? I would feel peaceful. I'd feel compassionate. I would feel trusting. So when I turned that thought around that they shouldn't have canceled, I realized I canceled too. I withdrew from participating. I made a self-honoring choice not to overextend myself financially or emotionally, and both of us acted from integrity. So suddenly, there was no villain, right? There were just 2 humans doing their best. And that's what this work of self-inquiry brought me to. And that shift is what healing looks like. It's not about never feeling disappointment. It's about not making it personal. I could feel it, and I could also not let it damage my sense of self-worth, my sense of self. And boy, that feels a whole lot lighter. That's why I'm sharing the tools with you today, so you can experience this also. So how do we integrate the lesson, right? Here's the part that most people skip. It's called integration. You've heard me talk about it a lot, and you will when it comes to sacred medicines. It's called integration. So disappointment carries valuable wisdom, but we only receive it if we pause long enough to listen. Here's my process, step by step. For those of you who really like to have steps, I mean, it kind of looks like a mashup, like it's a mushy situation for me, but I put it into steps for you guys. So number one is to feel it fully. Let the emotion move through you instead of bottling it. I invite you to cry, to scream, to dance, to journal, to run. Just don't suppress it. Number two is observe the story. Ask yourself, like I asked myself, what am I making this mean about me? Because disappointment only becomes real suffering when we tie it to our identity. They canceled is neutral, right? I'm not worthy is the story that hurts. So number three is to reframe it consciously. An example of this is when I moved into the inquiry of asking, like, how could this be happening for me? How could this be happening for me? And reflecting on maybe it's teaching me patience, humility, or discernment. Maybe it's clearing space for something better. Maybe it's firing me up to do more recovery talks and be like passionate. Maybe it's showing me that that's not the direction I should be speaking in anymore, but I'm sitting with it and asking the question. Number four is to anchor the growth. This is where neuroscience meets spirituality. Create a new neural association by pairing gratitude with the lesson. Say, thank you for this experience. I'm expanding because of it. It's what I always talk about, how I want to grow through something, not just go through something. And we just have to ask for that, and the lessons will come to us. Number five, transmute it into creation. So now we use the energy of the disappointment to fuel our next inspired action. So for me, it's this video. For you, maybe it's a conversation, a project, or a prayer. Because disappointment, like any emotion, is energy. Energy in motion is emotion. You get to decide what you do with that energy. This is how you take your power back, right? This is how we take our power back. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the science of resilience, shall we? You know me here. You know that I love to talk about some psychology and some spirituality and some science and mush it all together. So studies in neuroscience are showing that emotional resilience is not about avoiding pain. It's about our recovery speed. People who recover faster from emotional shocks, they share three common habits. And I'm not telling you, by the way, that I recover super fast. My hubby recovers super fast. I usually need like a solid day or two, okay? So if you're with me, you're not broken. Number one is awareness. They notice their inner dialogue immediately instead of letting it run wild. Number two, self-compassion. They talk to themselves like they would a friend. Check yourself on that. Leave a message for your friend talking about the issue and then play it back and listen. I challenge you. Number three is perspective. They zoom out and remember that one event doesn't define them. That's just maturity, y'all. I promised you, I teach you how we can do this like mature ass adults, and there you are. So Dr. Kristin Neff, the leading researcher on self-compassion, found that people who treat themselves with kindness after disappointment recover faster, feel less shame, and make wiser future decisions. Wouldn't you love that to be you? So if you find yourself spiraling, place a hand on your heart and say, of course I feel disappointed. This mattered to me. That single, like I'm getting emotional just doing it. Because this single act of acknowledgement shifts us from fight or flight into regulation, acknowledging it. Of course you're disappointed, sweetheart. Your nervous system doesn't need you to be perfect, nor does mine. It needs us to be present. And that's what the work is all about in this particular experience today. We just need to sit with it and allow it to flow through us without making them or us bad or wrong. And instead acknowledging that everything is always working out for us and we can't see it now, but we trust that it will. So now let's go a little bit deeper, because you know that I love the intersection of science and spirituality, as I've already said, if you're new here. So in quantum physics, everything exists as potential until it is observed. When we attach to one specific outcome, we collapse all other possibilities into disappointment. Take a second to think about that. But when we release attachment and instead we focus on frequency, we reopen the field of infinite potential. I'll say it again. When we release attachment and we focus instead on raising our frequency, we reopen the field of infinite potential. That's a lot, but in other words, if something doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that we failed. It means that particular version of reality wasn't resonant with our current frequency. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, calls this the law of resonance. When our emotional vibration rises, old alignments naturally fall away. And it feels like loss, but it's actually an energetic upgrade. It's either that, or I know that my frequency has dropped and I'm no longer in resonance with this event because I've let my shit slide, right? So these are the kind of the two ways. Either I've elevated and this no longer matches, or I've dropped and this no longer matches because it's higher vibe. Either way, instead of fighting the collapse, honor it. Say, if this fell away, it's because my energy evolved. And that statement reclaims your power. Like, I have to have ownership on that, for better or for worse, because I'm in control of my energy shift. I'm in control of asking for the growth constantly and to be up-spiraling. Up-spiraling? It's not a word. Up-spiraling, okay? So here's some everyday tools that we can use for disappointment. Not every disappointment, of course, is big, like the one that I just experienced. Sometimes it's small, right? Like plans got canceled, someone may have ghosted you, an idea flops. But the practice is the same. So here's a couple of quick techniques that you can use daily. A daily practice. Don't overwhelm yourself, of course. Giving yourself grace. This one's called the 90-second rule, and it's from neuroscience. When a wave of emotion hits, it lasts about 90 seconds. That's it. What is that, a minute and a half? It lasts a minute and a half in your body if you don't feed it with thoughts. I'll say it again. When a wave of emotion hits, it lasts only 90 seconds in our body if we don't feed it with thoughts. Set a timer, breathe through it, and let it pass, okay? That's a first practice. The next is called the release breath, and this is from somatics. You're gonna inhale deeply and exhale with a sigh. Let your body physically process the release, okay? The next practice you can do is called the reframe affirmation. I recommend doing the others first. Get it out. Here's an example. This disappointment is redirecting me towards something better suited for my growth. Don't do that one until you've actually let the emotion out first. Then we have the gratitude shift. You're gonna list 3 things that are still working for you right now. Gratitude is the fastest vibration shifter on the planet. Again, we're not using these to avoid the feeling. We're allowing the feelings to go through, to flow through us, and then we're stepping into these practices as something constructive and action-based that we can do to move that into a place of cellular shift and reactivation and elevating our vibration again to the point where we actually bring in what we want. So Every disappointment acts as a mirror. Where was I relying on external validation? Where did I outsource my sense of worth to someone else's decision? Where am I being invited to stand taller in my own true self? These are some more questions that we can allow disappointment to drop in with. Sometimes the hardest no's are just the universe teaching us how to source our significance from within. Because when our significance depends on others, disappointment destroys us, right? But when our significance comes from source, disappointment refines us. I don't know about you guys, but I am done. I am tired of being wiped out by relying on other people's expectations and provisions for me to fuel my self-worth. I don't want to play that game anymore. And this is how we do it. So in closing, to give you everything that I promised at the beginning, disappointment isn't the end of your story. It's the classroom where your character is built. Oof, and this is me too. I'm teaching myself. It's the universal whispering. Can you still trust me when it doesn't go your way? It's the universe, not universal whispering. It's the universe whispering. Can you still trust me when it doesn't go your way? I would love to tell the universe, yes, God, source, yes, I still trust in you. So the next time that a plan collapses and a door closes or someone cancels, I invite you to pause and say, I am open to being redirected. I'm open to being redirected, and if you can find it, and I'm grateful for the chance. Then we're gonna feel the emotion fully. We're gonna alchemize it into wisdom, because what's meant for you, it won't miss you, I promise. And what misses you was never meant for the version of you that exists now. That's the beauty of growth. It changes what's aligned. So keep trusting, keep showing up, keep choosing grace over grievance, faith over frustration, and presence over perfection. Because the more maturely we handle our disappointments, the faster we evolve into the person who can handle miracles. It's almost like we're being tested, right? On both sides. Are you ready to handle miracles? Well, miracles come with more disappointments. It's like more money, more problems, right? So we got to be able to handle both maturely. And that's what this journey is really all about. I'm ready for more miracles in my life. Are you? So let's practice being ready for them by being able to handle disappointments better. So, thank you so much for watching, for feeling with me, and for remembering that nothing is wasted, not even our letdowns. So a little reminder for you and for me, you're not losing, you're not behind, you're learning, you're not being punished, you're being prepared. And if you can meet disappointment with grace and curiosity, that's key, ding, 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 curiosity, you'll never truly lose again. This is my medicine as much as it is yours, and I'm happy to share what I've been learning. So stay grounded, stay grateful, and keep on thriving until I see you again. Mwah.